Well, hello everybody, welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some soft cream buns. These are an Italian type of bun called Maritozzi, but I think they're popular all over the world. Maybe the way the cream is inserted into the bun is slightly different in the Italian ones, but I think that's probably about it. So there are buns with an enriched dough which uses eggs and milk. You could use butter, but I'm using oil. That's the way a lot of the Italians do it, and I want to try that particular way of doing it. So it takes a little bit of time because we have to prove the dough for a couple of hours and then for another hour once we've shaped the buns. But I go on to the ingredients, and for these I have 500 grams, which is 3 1/3 cups based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup, and this is very strong white bread flour. This has a protein level of 14%. You could use strong white bread flour, 12%, that probably would work fine. I have 250 milliliters, which is 1 cup plus 2 teaspoons of lukewarm milk. I have 70 grams of oil, which is 5 tablespoons, but you could use melted butter that's cooled as well if you wanted to. I have 70 grams, 6 tablespoons minus 1 teaspoon of caster sugar, 1 medium egg, which would be large in the USA, 5 grams, which is 1 2/3 teaspoons of instant yeast, a pinch of salt, the zest from 1 orange. And then in addition, I'm going to use 1 egg yolk to brush over the buns before they go into the oven. And I'm going to use 1 2/3 cups, which is 400 milliliters of double cream with as much icing sugar as I want to flavour it. I'm not going to specify an amount of icing sugar. It depends on how sweet you want your cream, basically. And also to brush on the top once they come out of the oven, I've got a tablespoon of water and about a tablespoon of sugar, and I'm going to use those to make a syrup. So the first thing we need to do is to make the dough. So I'm going to put my flour into my bowl, and I'm going to mix the yeast into it. Like that, and then add the milk as well, and the oil, and the sugar, and our egg. And I'm going to mix those with my dough hook until it all comes together into a nice homogeneous dough. And this is probably going to take 5 or 6 minutes. So the dough has been kneaded now for just over 5 minutes, and it should be nice and stretchy, so I'm going to tip it out onto my work surface. Okay, so I've tipped my dough out, and I'm just going to fold it in on itself like that, and I'm going to work it into a nice tight ball by pushing my hands underneath it like that. That's good. And then I'm going to put that into a lightly greased bowl, which I'm going to cover with some plastic wrap. and I'm going to put that into a warm place and allow it to prove for 2 hours. And after 2 hours I'll come back and we'll divide the dough up into 9 pieces and we'll shape our buns. So my dough has been proving now for 2 hours and it's more than doubled in size. This is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just knock the air out of it and tip it out onto my work surface. And then I'm just going to fold it like that, and I'm going to divide that into 9 pieces. So I want pieces which are just about 100 grams in weight. And with the dough in 9 equal pieces, they're about 104 grams each actually, I'm going to form them into a ball and then roll them round like that so that they're quite round, and then I'm just going to give them a little roll to make them slightly oval, and I'll put them onto a baking tray. So with the 9 rolled out and made slightly oval, just very slightly, they're going to rise again. So I'm going to cover those with more plastic wrap, which I will grease. I will just grease it and lay it over them like that. And I'm going to let them rise for an hour. And as the hour comes to an end, I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. Then I'll come back and we will brush the tops with a bit of egg yolk mixed with some milk, and then I'll put them into the oven to bake them. It's been just about an hour and my oven is preheated, so now it's time to brush the top of our formed buns with a little wash of egg yolk and milk, and then they can go in the oven. So I've taken my egg yolk and added about a tablespoon of milk and beaten them together, and I'm just going to brush all over each of the buns which have risen up, and they've rounded off so they're not necessarily an oval shape, but that's good. However they are, they will look good, I'm sure. So I've brushed all of the buns and I'm going to put those into my oven and I'm going to bake them for between 15 and 20 minutes. I'm hoping that they rise up nicely and the tops turn a nice darkish brown colour. I take them out of the oven and put them onto a wire rack, and then while they're still hot I'm going to brush them with a syrup, and I'll show you that, but I will heat the sugar and the water to make the syrup ready for when I come back to show you what the buns look like. So I've baked the buns, and I baked them for 20 minutes, and they've coloured quite nicely. So I have my little drop of sugar and water, which I put on the heat just to dissolve the sugar into the water, and I'm simply going to brush the top of each one while it's still warm. So with those brushed with the sugar syrup, I let them cool down, and once they've cooled down I'll come back, whip some cream and put it into these and show you how I finish them off. So the buns have now cooled down with the glaze on top. So what I'm going to do is to whip my cream with some sugar. So I have my 400 millilitres of cream in a bowl, and here I've decided to use 30 grams of icing sugar, which is about a quarter of a cup. And I'm simply going to whisk that until it's nice and thick and is holding some stiff peaks. So that's holding stiff peaks now. You don't want to go any further than that with the whisking. So then you can actually transfer that into a piping bag if you want to, but I'm going to spoon it into my buns. I think that's easy enough. So I'll just set that to one side for a moment, and I'll take a bun and I'm going to cut that diagonally, and down, but not all the way through. So I just want to be able to open it up like that and fill it with some cream. And I'll do it to 3 for the purposes of this video, and then I'll actually store the cream and do the others tomorrow. I don't want to put the cream in them until they're going to be eaten. So then I'm simply going to open it up and take some cream and put it inside like that, and then close it, and I'm going to spread it so that it's flat. And then wipe off the excess like that, and take some towel to clean off the excess. And then the traditional way of serving those is just to sprinkle over a little bit of icing sugar like that. So that's what they look like, and I have to say they do look very, very good. So I'll have a taste of one, which is probably going to be quite messy. I'm sure maybe they would eat them by cutting them and using a fork. But the bun is lovely and soft. I can taste the orange from that little bit of zest, and then that cream is nice and light and has just the hint of sweetness that I want from cream. So this is very good indeed. It's a variation on many types of cream bun. So for instance, there's a simpler version which is called a Devonshire split. That doesn't use eggs, but it uses pretty much the same other ingredients, butter but not oil, and that's filled with some cream and some jam. And there's iced buns, which is using pretty much the same ingredients as this, but instead of just putting cream and raspberry jam that goes in the middle, you also put an icing on the top. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for this recipe. And I'll put a link below the video for the recipe as well, and I'll be back with another video in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.